Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good day to all of you. For this chapter, we will discuss about an introduction to biodiesel fuel deposit study. Okay, before we go further to our discussion in terms of biodiesel fuel deposit, first we want to look at the advantages and also disadvantages of diesel engine. We want to know why at this moment people still use diesel engine instead of petrol engine. So diesel engine advantages. So first we have diesel engine will have higher power weight, higher power to weight ratio compared to petrol engine. Where this means that for the same engine size, if you compare between this diesel engine or petrol engine, diesel engine will produce more power compared to petrol engine. Second advantage is about the performance. So diesel engine will have higher performance compared to petrol diesel engine. So if you look at this general thermal efficiency equation, where thermal efficiency equal to W net output from the engine divided by Q in. So normally Q in represent amount of fuel used by the engine. So for diesel engine will have higher thermal efficiency and also lower fuel consumption if you compare to petrol engine. However, there are also disadvantages of diesel engine. First, due to the depletion of the oil source, so the oil price for diesel engine keep increasing year by year. And the second disadvantages of this diesel engine due to the pollution that produced after what I call the combustion in diesel engine. Which is involved with the NOx production and also PM particulate matter that come out from uh, the combustion process of the diesel engine. So if you look in the figures, shows the what I call the black smoke that come out from the diesel engine. So we will have very small particle that release through the exhaust of the engine. As you can see in the figure, there are different size of particle, such as solid carbon cores. We have absorbed hydrocarbon, hydrated sulfate species, soluble organic fraction SOF, vapor phase hydrocarbon, and so on. Okay, for solid carbon cores, normally we refer as the particulate matter. The size is around 0.01 up to 0.08 millimeter in diameter. So these particulates of this size can cause or worsen the cardiovascular disease, asthma, lung cancer, and so on. So due to this very dangerous factor, due to the pollution, and this will affect the health of human body. So we need to find a new solution in order to reduce to get I call the alternative fuel that has a lower price in lower oil price, and also uh, we need to have alternative fuel that produce lower pollution in terms of NOx and also particulate matter. So one of the solution is by substitute the diesel fuel, the typical diesel fuel, with biodiesel fuel. However, in order to substitute the diesel fuel with biodiesel fuel, the biodiesel fuel must have similar properties similar as the normal diesel fuel. Then we can use the biodiesel fuel as the substitute for the diesel fuel. So by using the biodiesel fuel, we will have cheaper fuel price and also we will have less pollution. So these are two main concerns that when we use biodiesel fuel. So we will have cheaper fuel price and we will have less pollution in terms of NOx and also PM particulate matter. Okay, now we want to know what is biodiesel fuel. So biodiesel fuel actually come from an animal or vegetable oil, and normally we call triglyceride. So this is the chemical equation of the triglyceride plus the alcohol. Normally we use methanol, and these two what I call these two component or these two material will go through the transesterification process and then produce biodiesel fuel. And in terms of chemistry names, the biodiesel fuel actually is referred as the fatty acid methyl ester, FAME, and this is the called the chemical equation for the biodiesel plus the what I call the glycerin. Okay, so in order to use biodiesel fuel in typical diesel engine, normally we will use blended biodiesel where we will mix biodiesel or fatty acid methyl ester FAME with typical diesel fuel. So normally there are a few types of blended biodiesel that represent by specific abbreviation, where we have B0. B0 normally refer as 100% typical diesel fuel without any what I call component of biodiesel fuel or FAME, and sometimes we call DF diesel fuel, pure diesel fuel. B5 represent the mixture of 5% biodiesel FAME plus 95% typical diesel fuel. B10 is equal to 10% biodiesel fuel plus 90% typical diesel fuel. B20 20% biodiesel FAME plus 80% diesel fuel, and B100 refer to pure biodiesel fuel or pure FAME without any component of typical diesel fuel. So we will refer in our discussion in terms of blended biodiesel, we will refer this abbreviation in our discussion in order to refer to the specific mixture of biodiesel fuel and typical diesel fuel. Okay, now we look at the biodiesel fuel advantages compared to the typical diesel fuel. So first, biodiesel fuel capable to reduce emission in terms of HC hydrocarbon emission, PM particulate matter emission, and also carbon monoxide. Based on the called the paper that produced by Buyukaya 2010, so this researcher used a rapeseed biodiesel fuel in his investigation. So the first graph shows the relationship between hydrocarbon emission versus engine speed for different type of I would call mixture of biodiesel and also rapeseed biodiesel and also typical diesel fuel. So we have the red color line represent the amount of hydrocarbon emission for different engine speed for diesel fuel, and the green color line represent for B5, and the blue color line represents for B20. So we can see that when we increase the amount of biodiesel fuel in the blended biodiesel fuel, so we will have less hydrocarbon emission produced by the diesel engine. So the second graph shows the smoke opacity versus engine speed for diesel and also various mixture of blended biodiesel fuel. So smoke opacity represent what I call the amount of particulate matter that produced by the engine. So if we have higher percentage of smoke opacity, that means that the amount of particulate matter also will increase. So we have the graph for diesel represented by red color line, green color line for B5, and blue color line for B20. So clearly you can see in terms of smoke opacity, diesel fuel, 100% diesel fuel will have more smoke opacity percentage compared to B5 and B20. And from this investigation, we can see that when we mix with biodiesel fuel with the typical diesel fuel, we can reduce the amount of smoke opacity and also the amount of particulate matter. And the third one is about the carbon monoxide emission. So we have for diesel fuel, for B5, and also for B20. Although the difference is very small, but still B5 and B20 will produce less carbon monoxide if compared to 100% diesel fuel. Okay, the second advantages of biodiesel fuel is in terms of performance. Biodiesel fuel have comparable performance compared to diesel fuel. So if we look from the result that obtained by Buyukaya 2010 by using rapeseed biodiesel fuel, so the graph shows the brake thermal efficiency versus engine speed for diesel fuel, B5, B20, B70, and also B100. So we just look the comparison between diesel, B5, and also B20. So we can see this red color line for diesel, for B5, green color line, and also for B20. We can see that the increase of efficiency when we blend the fuel, we mix what I call the typical diesel fuel with 5%, few percentage of biodiesel fuel inside the fuel. Okay, if you compare to B5 and B10 in terms of performance, quite similar. However, B20 will have slightly higher performance compared to B5. Okay, then we have the third advantages. Generally, biodiesel fuel will have higher certain rating number. So rating number or certain rating number represent the quality of ignition. So if quality of ignition increase, so the combustion of the performance of the engine will increase. However, this depends on the source of biodiesel fuel. Okay, so this graph shows the I call the different in terms of certain number value for different percentage of biodiesel fuel blended with typical diesel fuel. So we have the first column for 100% diesel fuel and the last column for 100% biodiesel fuel. So the rest, the mixture will have the value of certain number in between. So from this graph we can see that when we add the amount of biodiesel fuel into the mixed with typical diesel fuel, the certain number or the quality of ignition of the fuel will increase. Okay, however, if you look at the last graph, where the last graph shows the relationship in term of certain number for different type of biodiesel fuel, so the value is different depend on the source of the biodiesel fuel. So the last column actually represent this is number for typical diesel fuel. If you look, I call the biodiesel fuel from different that come from different source of material. We can see that grapeseed biodiesel fuel, rice bran, sunflower biodiesel fuel, and so soya bean biodiesel fuel will have higher certain number if you compare to typical diesel fuel. However, for biodiesel fuel that based on the olive oil and also corn oil source, this kind of biodiesel fuel will have lower certain number compared to typical diesel fuel. Okay. Okay. Problem involved is biodiesel fuel usage. So first we have the cold start condition become worse if we use biodiesel fuel. So cold start here means the condition where when we start the engine and the engine temperature is at ambient temperature. So this is due to poor low temperature fluidity of biodiesel fuel. Number two, the exhaust of smoke at cold start due to the exhaust of unburned element of biodiesel fuel. Problem number three, plugging of fuel filter due to deposit of glycerin and alkaline catalyst in fuel. So the photos of fuel filters shows that the first photo shows the new fuel filter. The second photo shows the fuel filter condition after the vehicle run for 10 kilomiles and the vehicle use blended biodiesel fuel with percentage of biodiesel fuel in the fuel less than 5%. And the third photo shows the fuel filter condition when the vehicle run for 9 kilomiles and the vehicle use the blended biofuel with biofuel percentage greater than 5%. Problem number 4, the degradation of fuel due to the auto-oxidation of fuel. So one of the what I call disadvantage of biodiesel fuel is the fuel can oxidize easily after certain period of time, as shown in the figure. Okay, problem number 5, the degradation of rubber product. Okay, due to the auto-oxidation of fuel, so the content of oxygen in the fuel will increase. So the content of oxygen will cause swelling of rubber component in the engine, as shown in the photo. Okay, the last problem involves with deposit formation in combustion chamber. So the deposit formation actually due to the incomplete combustion of high boiling point component of biodiesel fuel. So the photo shows what I call the different engine condition such as cylinder head, figure A, figure B, the condition for piston crown, and figure C, the condition at fuel injector tips. So for these three type of figures, so we have the first photo shows the clean cylinder head, clean piston crown, and also clean fuel injector. And the third photo, the second photo shows the cylinder head, piston crown, and also fuel injector condition uh, in terms of deposit formation when the engine use high sulfur diesel fuel. And the third photo shows the condition of the different engine part in terms of deposit formation when the engine use what I call blended biodiesel fuel with 10% of biodiesel fuel content in the fuel. Okay, so the deposit formation, we can see that more deposit more amount of deposit formation on the cylinder head, on the piston crown, and also on the fuel injector tip when the engine use B10 compared to HSD, high sulfur diesel fuel. So this condition of deposit formation in the combustion chamber will reduce engine lifespan, where the deposit will cause wear between engine components. Okay, biodiesel fuel properties that probably cause the problems that we discussed in previous slide compared to the typical diesel fuel. First, due to higher value of density and also viscosity of biodiesel fuel compared to typical diesel fuel. So if we refer to the the study that conducted by Carr et al. 2008 that use refined palm oil biodiesel fuel and also crude coconut oil biodiesel fuel. So the first graph shows the relationship in terms of density of biodiesel fuel, the density of diesel fuel, and also different blended of biodiesel fuel based on refined palm oil and also crude coconut oil. So we have diesel fuels. The first column shows the the data for density for diesel fuel, and the red column represent the density for B10. So you can see that when we increase the amount of biodiesel in the fuel, so we'll have higher value of density. So similarly with the viscosity. Okay, so we have the viscosity for diesel fuel and the viscosity for B10. So the viscosity for B10 is higher than the viscosity of diesel fuel. So this is one of the reason of the problem that we face when we use biodiesel fuel. The second one is high and also higher and also narrow distillation range as shown in the figure. So the figure shows the relationship in terms of temperature with distillation recovered. So we have numbers of graph for biodiesel and also diesel fuel. So distillation temperature for biodiesel is higher compared to diesel. So you can see the blue color line represent the curve for diesel fuel. You can see at 150 degree, what I call the diesel fuel already start to evaporate. Let's say at 250 degrees Celsius, so the diesel fuel already I call evaporate around 47%. Okay, around 47%. However, at that time, the biodiesel fuel still not evaporate. So biodiesel fuel start to operate when the temperature is around 350. Okay, so at 350, the biodiesel fuel in terms of evaporation can increase up to 95%, which is at certain temperature, biodiesel will evaporate more compared to diesel fuel. Okay, so this graph in terms of distillation graph relate with time of fuel evaporation at certain temperature and amount of fuel remaining during the combustion process. So this shows the animation, how the biodiesel fuel droplet react and also diesel fuel droplet react with the time when the temperature increase. So for biodiesel fuel, the biodiesel fuel due to the high and also narrow distillation range uh, in the distillation graph. So biodiesel fuel will take longer time in order to evaporate compared to the diesel fuel. Okay, and the third reason due to the less thermal stability during storage for biodiesel fuel. So if we refer to the Mittelbach et al. 2001 result, they obtained the result in terms of oxidation of biodiesel fuel. So the graph shows the peroxide number that represent the amount of oxygen in the fuel with time for different cases, such as what I call store the fuel under light condition, open container, what I call dark condition, open and closed container, and so on. So let's say we take a few example. For example, the what I call the condition without light and the container of the biodiesel fuel is open compared to light condition, the condition with light, and also open the container of biodiesel fuel. We can see that the amount of peroxide number or the content of oxygen in the fuel is higher for the light plus open condition if you compare to dark plus open condition, where we can see that the biodiesel fuel easily affect in terms of oxidation, uh, easily affected by the environment condition. Okay, so BDF, biodiesel fuel properties, easily change due to the environment condition, such as the container material, room lighting, and also the amount of air exposure to the biodiesel fuel.